What happens is it's so easy, especially if you've been kind of running the same play for a certain period of time, to convince yourself that you need a lot of new things, or that there's maybe something wrong and that's why it's not hitting the goal you want. Even though it's still hitting a goal, it's like it's not hitting the next level. And to get to the next level, you need all this new stuff. You need a new live launch, you need a new offer, you need a downsell, you need an upsell. And so most of the time when you are scaling, the answer is actually in doing less, not more. Embodied CEOs don't chase trends. They pave the way. They lead from within, moved by purpose, unshaken by noise. When you are the source, you do not need permission. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I hope you guys are having an amazing week. We are definitely heading into summer here in Texas, which I have a goal for us. I just told my kids this. I was like, we're going to make it the best summer yet in actual Austin. Like, we're going to travel, our normal travel, but I'm challenging our family to make a list of fun things that we can go do, probably water-based things because it's hot, this summer locally, to make the time that we are here more fun, because we don't enjoy the extreme heat of Austin. But honestly, the more I come downtown now to come into the studio, and my gym is downtown, the more I'm like, Austin is such a fun city. And I love where we live, but it's not the same. I would never want to live in the city, but I do love the city and the vibe of Austin. It's so fun. So speaking of that, you should be at the live event. We still have early bird pricing up for just a bit longer, and our live event is July 30th to August 1st. It's going to be epic, and some of actually what I'm talking about today will be relevant in the live event. But 3 days, Embodied Marketing Live, it is one of the best things I do all year. It's a super affordable ticket price. Like, it's not priced as one of my high ticket retreats, but it's like a mix of a marketing event with a retreat, with intimate connection with other entrepreneurs, and everything is very workshop based. So a question I get asked a lot is like, is this event right for me? I'm at this stage of my business, or I have this of my marketing done, but not this done. And this is not like, let me put slides up and teach at you all day type of an event. It is truly a curated experience. Every one of them is different. Every one of them has a different flow, a different schedule, but we do touch on everything from your messaging to content to your offer strategy to your actual marketing funnel. We'll definitely talk about AI, different like business and life audits, and everything I do is super interactive. So it's literally like you're sitting there and I ask questions and you answer the questions. And so I'll teach something and then we create this interactive experience basically so that you can implement, because I don't want to just teach information at you for 3 days. I want you to actually customize everything into your marketing strategy so that you're clear. So that's the event. And actually day 3 has done for you content creation. So my photographer comes on site and we create some content for you that you get to keep. That's for the VIP day. So anyways, it's going to be amazing. And it's very, like, everything you need plus more is what you'll get from the event in 3 days, just like deep dive. If you are interested, embodiedmarketing.com/live is the link, and we do have some tickets for sale still, and we will be bumping that price up soon from early bird price. And then you can come to Austin. It is so fun. Okay, let's get into today. This has been a theme that has been coming up a lot for me in business, but also the women that I coach in my mastermind and even clients. And I'm seeing this theme. And so I want to talk about it just because I think it's such an important reminder. And then it got me thinking about like the two kind of energies you need to grow a business, and one that's very prevalent in the beginning of growing a business, and then one that is necessary for after you've kind of validated your offer and you have the foundation of a business. And I think we sometimes forget this second one, or we lose some of the magic from the first one as we start growing. So let me explain. First of all, a big theme for me over and over, like I've been getting this lesson, I've been getting this reminder, I've been like thinking that I need all these complicated things. I think I talked about that on one of the most recent podcasts, and then being reminded like, no, it's more simple than you think it is. It is about focusing and like doubling down on things and getting even more laser focused on what's already working and, not kind of going wide with a bunch of things and a bunch of like chasing opportunities. And so yesterday I was in my studio, I was in here, and I had kind of like a long to-do list, but they were all things, when you have a to-do list and it's like every single thing is like a project, and so there's nothing quick that you can get done. And then you kind of end up like responding to messages and getting pulled into other directions, and you just like can't find that flow. So that's how my day started yesterday, is because I always plan I call it a get to-do list. I plan it the day before. So I come into work and it's like, here's what I've already kind of planned based on what I didn't finish yesterday and what's priority. Nothing on that list was fast. And then I found myself in Slack and kind of getting pulled in different directions. And it wasn't like I had something simple where it was like record a podcast, right? Where I could just cross it off the list. It was like decide the quarterly marketing plan, or reset the next 3 to 6 months goals and like targets and sales goals. Like those are not fast. They could be, but they also take thinking. And so I found myself in this like scattered place where I was like, I'm not actually getting anything quote done, and I don't have more clarity. And so what I did was I actually sat and turned on just like some meditation music, so not like a guided meditation. And I sat there for 20 minutes and just stopped all the noise. And I just sat there and was in stillness and was like, before we move into this next phase of planning and trying to get through and kind of make these decisions and set this vision and really organize this for the team, we first need to go into stillness. And so the old Emily would have for sure rolled her eyes at this, but it was almost like I couldn't move forward without doing that, because I needed to get out of my head and just like into my body, which helps me connect to the simplicity and the ease of it all. So I did that. And then I got out a huge piece of paper, and now they're up on my wall, like those papers that you can rip off and stick on the wall, and a marker. And I just started putting stuff down for clear targets for the next 3 to 6 months. I had one paper for that. And then I had one paper that said actions that we need to take as a team and me. I don't know. It worked for my brain. And I'm a weirdo, like by myself in here. I will talk to myself because I'm like, I don't know, I'm a verbal processor, I think. So I'll be brainstorming and I'll do this. And so this was like, this process worked for me. This is not always my process, but it was like, I needed to set the next 3 to 6 months, because it's like we have these things that are working and we're going to build on those. And then what are the few things that we're going to add? So anyways, all that to say, when I first sat down to think about even the next month, I found myself thinking about, I have all these new things that I could do. New offer ideas, new live launch ideas, new content ideas, which content is fine to do new. But anyways, I found myself going like, here's all these new ideas, and they're all good ideas. But as I sat down and as I looked at numbers, and as I go, okay, if this is our sales target in the next month, in the next 3 months, in the next 6 months, and I looked at numbers and I looked at, okay, if we added an offer here and we sold this much, or we just took what was working and we built on that here, every single time the road led back to, you don't need to change very much. You actually need to focus more. And that's kind of my point, because I am seeing this theme where it's actually hard to catch, where entrepreneurs who you've found the initial success, you've validated your offer, you have an offer that works, you've maybe gotten as far as like you've got a cold traffic funnel that is bringing leads in and converting them, you want it to be higher. What happens is it's so easy, especially if you've been kind of running the same play for a certain period of time, to convince yourself that you need a lot of new things, or that there's maybe something wrong and that's why it's not hitting the goal you want. Even though it's still hitting a goal, it's like it's not hitting the next level. And to get to the next level, you need all this new stuff. You need a new live launch, you need a new offer, you need a downsell, you need an upsell. And almost all my 2 out of 3 of my conversations in a coaching call today were actually about this. It was like, I have this idea for this additional monthly call that I want to do. I have this idea for this additional offer where I could offer a different tier. And here's what I notice. In theory, these all sound really simple. It's like I could just launch this extra monthly training and it's super simple, or I could launch this other tier. Then when you start to dive into it and you start to like break it down of what would be required to do that and the messaging, and it's kind of different than this strategy, so you'd almost need another strategy to fill it. And all the pieces, you realize it's actually a pretty big lift. And then you have to say, okay, well, is that lift and investment over here going to actually pay off more than if we doubled down and focused on what we're already doing? And I don't think every single time that the answer is this, but I think a lot of times, like when you are scaling your business, which you are scaling your business if you've already gotten that initial success, you've validated your offer, and now you are taking it to a next level of monthly revenue. Even if you're like, well, I'm not at 6 figures yet, I'm not scaling 6 to 7, like you're still scaling your business. Once you have validated your offer, you are now in a scaling phase, because you can take and say, this thing worked to an extent, even if it's small, and now we have to build on top of that. And your goal is to have marketing and honestly like a business structure in general that you can build on top of versus constantly be resetting. And so most of the time when you are scaling, the answer is actually in doing less, not more. And this, like, when you hear it, you're like, yeah, I know this, duh. But I can't tell you how many times that I know this because I've done this many times. And I still override it with a new idea that sounds really great. And here's why. Because the new idea is great. Because the new idea, it will probably be successful. Like if I were to go forward with some of the ideas I had, they probably would be successful. They're not bad ideas. They're not bad strategies. They're not bad offers. But would they be more successful than just doubling down on what we're already doing, which we have 3 tiers of working with us that are extremely successful and are working well. And we have a weekly webinar. We have strategies that are working really well right now. And so if I double down on that, then I'll probably get more than launching a new offer. But the tricky part is it's like you're weighing things that like, yeah, they are good ideas. They're good ideas. They're good strategies. They're not bad ideas. It's just constantly that, is it the best use of time, energy, and money? And the other thing is this, if you have a team and you come up with this idea and you're like super excited about it and you're like, we got to go forward with this, like this is going to be amazing, this is a new offer, right? Like entrepreneurs, we do this. Your team most likely is going to say, let's do it. Like, because they get in on that excited energy. And so they're like, they believe you. And they're like, of course, like you are what we are following and we believe this. Now, some team members, like I do have some team members who have learned and will be like, no, let's focus on this. And I will say with clients, that is something that I do a lot with VIP clients or my mastermind members, is I'll be like, it's an amazing idea. We can go forward with that idea if you would like, but let's weigh what it's going to take away from, because it automatically will take away from things. So my invitation, my question for you in today's episode, and then I want to talk about the other like opposite side of this energy that is also necessary in business. But my question for you is to really look at and take inventory of especially your marketing, but sure, your business as a whole. And like, are you doing the boring work? Are you taking a strategy that you can continually optimize and allow to compound, and actually giving it that full time and that full effort? And for a lot of our clients right now, and for me, this is a weekly live webinar. And it's like the same topic, run to really cold traffic and some retargeted, going to the same pitch, and it's repeating it, and it's constantly like taking those core metrics of cost per lead, of conversion on the webinar, book a call conversion, email conversions, and just refinement, and then scaling and increasing the ad spend. And that's why I love paid ads, is because you can get a baseline of all those major metrics, cost per lead and sales conversion and return on your ad spend. And then you can get it profitable, and you can go, now, if we increase the budget by this much, then this is how much we get out of it. And you can't do that with organic. You can't say like, if I post an extra post every day, it's going to it's going to get me this much more sales. Organic is necessary, but to me, it's more of a nurture consistency strategy. Ads are like dollar in, dollar out, and that's why I love them. But you have to get that baseline strategy working and then scale it. And really the only way to get that baseline strategy working is through consistency. And it's through going all in on a strategy and optimizing it until it is converting and until it is working at that level. And so do you have a strategy which should consist of growing your audience, generating leads, and converting both of those buckets into sales? And it should be a daily thing because you need the consistency. And that's where I'm really loving the weekly webinar again. And I say again because it's not a new strategy. Russell taught this strategy 10 years ago, but it creates consistency while also capitalizing on the live conversion, because live always converts higher. And so we've dialed it down to where the CEO, the founder, just shows up for the 1 hour, teaches the webinar, and everything else is working in the background, the system, the back end of the marketing system. So do you have that strategy that you can double down and go all in on? And even if like the front end, let's say the webinar topic right away doesn't work, you still can adjust that. You still can optimize that, but are you doubling down on that singular strategy that you can go all in on? Now, this doesn't take away from the fact that you need a marketing ecosystem, right? Like for me, if you look at my marketing strategy, I still have multiple channels. I have the podcast. I have social media that I've really doubled down on. I have a weekly webinar. We run ads every single day to it. I have the email list. I still do other live launches. So like things are all happening. But the singular focus is get calls booked, put people in one of our 3 tiers of how we help them and support them with their marketing. And so if you're constantly start and stopping, you're constantly launching something new, it doesn't work how you wanted, so you shut that off, you're launching something else, you're coming up with new offers, you're coming up with upsells, you're coming up with downsells, you're falling in that trap that I'm talking about where your ideas are not bad. They're good strategies, and they might even bring a little bit of success, and they might bring success and they might bring sales, and that's where it gets tricky. Because then you're like, oh, that was a good strategy, but you have to ask yourself, what did it take away from? And if I took all the resources that I just used to launch that offer or to do that promotion or to do that live launch, if I was to take those same resources and put them here, would it pay off more? And so I just keep getting that reminder. And I was on the coaching call today, and you know, the girls are saying like, I have this idea for this new thing or this new downsell, or you know, I was on a call and someone said this and it made me think this and it made me want to change my offer. And it's like, I get it, they're not bad ideas, but let's stay the track. Let's stay the course, and let's make sure that we optimize this and scale it to the maximum. Now, I want to talk about the other energy, which is the energy that you use when you first start out. And that's it's fuck around and find out energy. It's throw spaghetti at the wall. It's take 100 actions and 1 or 2 of them are going to work. And that is how you launch a business. And it is a very necessary skill to actually have, where you take an insane amount of action, kind of disconnected on if it's going to work or not. Like you're taking the action going, I'm just going to try a bunch of things. And that is actually powerful when you are starting a business, when you are trying to prove an offer and validate it for the first time. Because at that time, you don't know the messaging angles. You don't know the strategy or the offer positioning or even the offer that's going to actually convert yet. And you have to get data. And the only way to get data and information is through taking actions. And so sometimes I also see brand new business owners who are so afraid to take action, and they overthink so much that it's like the amount of time it took them to take an action, somebody else has taken 100 actions. That is a recipe also for not being successful, because that beginning phase of validating a business, of getting it even, I would say, like, let's just say to the first 5 figures, like you're making $5,000 a month. That is the fuck around and find out stage. Let's just call it that. where your goal is literally relentless action. It is relentless action, really removed from the outcome of that action, which is the hard part. Because you will and almost want to have things that you've tried that didn't work and weren't successful, because then you're trying enough things. Then you get that initial success and you have to actually completely, it's like that saying of like, what got you here will actually kill you going to the next level. You have to actually completely change the way you look at it, because now it's not like, let's just take all these actions. It's let's be more calculated. Let's take what's working. Let's build on top of what's working. Let's be more focused. Let's be more discerned with where our time and energy goes, with where our attention goes, with where we like actually spend our time as a business owner. And you have to make that shift. And I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs have to make the shift. It happens with their marketing. It happens with their team. Because in one hand, they're doing everything and they're bootstrapping and they're figuring it out. And then they try to hire a team and they still look at their business that way, and they don't value their time. They don't value their energy. Now, sometimes I also see, this is like where it's never black and white. I also see entrepreneurs who have done the same thing for years and years and years, and the industry's changed. You know, every industry's changed right now. So what's working, the offers, how you position them, it's all changed. You almost sometimes need a little bit of that new entrepreneur energy of like, let's fuck around and find out a little bit when you're in that situation. When you're like, I've done this for 5 years and I haven't changed a thing. Now I got to catch up and I got to figure out where the industry is at. And, you know, what has changed, what has to change in my messaging, what maybe has to change in my offers. Now, it's a little less chaotic and scattered because you still have data. So when you look at like a company like Amy Porterfield, right? She shut down Digital Course Academy and she launched new offers. Now, did she have to go back to square one where she's like trying a million things and seeing what works? No, because she has a huge audience. But she did probably need, and the strategic thing would have been to have a little bit of that energy of let's try a few things. Let's try a handful of things. Let's see what works and let's double down on what's working. So there's a balance. But I would say most of the time, and I'm getting this reminder, like most of the time, simple over complex, focused over scattered. And like I said, it's sneaky. Because you can come up with ideas and new offers and launches that will be successful, and that's where it's tricky. They will be successful. They will get the leads. They will probably get some sales. And, you know, that's where I had to sit down and like look at my list and go, okay, if our goal is these sales and, you know, this revenue, are we going to get there by like adding this offer or adding this, you know, idea that I have that's super cool? Or are we going to get there by just doing more of what's already working? And for me, the answer kept coming back to like build on, do more of what's working, and also scale. Like I said, that's why I love ad spend, because I have my weekly webinar right now. I have the ad spend I'm spending, and we're going, okay, if we bump it up 10% a week, do we hold our metrics? And if we can scale what we're doing by 10% every week for the next 6 months, that's massive. That's the goal. That's where you're trying to get. You're trying to get that little bit of predictability so then you can build on top of it and you can have it compound. And the cool thing about business and marketing is it does come down to the numbers. And you can make very logical decisions that way, where you're just looking at it from that numbers perspective. It doesn't have to be emotional and scary. It's more emotional and scary and unknown when you're in those beginning stages because you don't have the data. You don't know how many leads are going to convert. You don't know if any of them are going to convert. You don't know if your offer is going to work. And that's where you just try a bunch of things and you start to see what works. And action wins. Action still wins later on, but very calculated action wins. Not to the point where you're overthinking, but you're intentional. Like, I think that's a big thing. You're intentional and you're strategic, and you have insane discernment. Like, I think that, you know, as you grow your business, like the number of opportunities are never small. Like, you have a lot of options of where you can put your time and energy, and it's a beautiful thing. It's like You have people who want to hire you for this, or will be like, I'll do this special offer, I'll pay you for your time, or do you want to come speak over here, or be on this podcast, or do this? And you have to really be like, I only have so much time and energy. We only have so much company resources. Like, yeah, we can hire more team, but it takes time. The more that all of those resources of time, energy, and money are going to the most important things, the biggest needle movers, the better everything will do. But those decisions have to come from the CEO. And that's why I sat there in stillness yesterday for 25 minutes, because I could feel that I was just in a unclear place. Not stressed, just unclear. I'm like, it's right there. You know when you feel that and you're like, I feel like it's right, like it's on the edge of my brain. And I just I haven't gotten it yet. And a lot of times it comes from get out of your head. Get out of your head and just simplify it all and tune it out. And that is an example of the job of a CEO, which takes mental capacity, which is not really something I could have crossed off a to-do list yesterday. And it's why I can't be doing day-to-day things and operating from that strategic place, because I have to zoom out with the lens that nobody else in my company has, because they're so in the day-to-day. That's their job. So it's just also a great example of the goal of getting yourself fully out of the day-to-day of your company so that you can think this way, so that you can have these strategic conversations, even if it's just with yourself, and set the vision and be clear and have that intention. All right, everybody. So 2 things. Embodied Marketing Live, embodiedmarketing.com/live. I would love to see you. If you have any questions, if you want to talk about if the event is the right fit for you, feel free to message me. I love chatting with you guys. The events are my favorite things that I do. We do them twice a year, and every single person leaves changed with business ideas and growth that they couldn't even have imagined walking in. It's very tactical, very hands-on. Second thing is, if you're listening to this and you're like, I need a marketing strategy that's consistent. I maybe want to build out the webinar funnel, the weekly webinar funnel. I want to build something that creates that consistency, that I can have the predictability and then I can scale it. If you go to helpmystrategy.com, you can book a call. We have 3 ways that we help people. And in 2 out of 3 of those, we can build out the weekly webinar, because that would make sense for you. In the first way, it's you got to validate your offer. You're in that beginning stage. You need to actually do it without ads. The other 2 levels, you can do it with ads. And we've really mastered the weekly webinar process. It's something I'm doing. We have several clients implementing it. And like I said, it's creating that consistency with live component. And those together are working really, really well right now. So helpmystrategy.com, you can see all that information. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. I'll talk to you next time.